Girl, you're growing. I'm
trying.
very impressed with this. See, you can see some change in us season 2. I'm not any better, though, so.
Welcome to the Holy Mess Podcast. I'm Becca.
And I'm Joy.
If you think you're a mess, you are not alone. We talk about the things of life through a lens of faith and find the hope in all of it.
If you struggle with body image, maybe even saying no, building healthy boundaries, we're going to address all of that in the podcast, plus the thing you might be eating for breakfast that is horrible for you. That's at the very end. But first, our messy moment of the week.
So mine is kind of expounding on something we discussed in season 1 and to kind of show that certain things in life are a work in progress, especially on the topic of body image. I know in season 1, I think there's a episode is called When Trying On Clothes Leaves You Crying Into Your Dippin' Dots or something like that.
And it always makes me crave Dippin' Dots. But also, I mean, we learned a lot.
Yeah. It was just, an honest conversation about how clothes shopping can be really difficult for me. And it made me feel really low. And I started kind of saying terrible things about my body, and I'm trying to get better at it. And so I was presented with that opportunity recently. Joy and I, for our jobs, will sometimes do stage time at concerts where we'll go up and we'll be like, hey, YFM has this going on and they have that going on, and I'm Becca and enjoy the show.
We're supposed to be confident, but every time behind the scenes, Becca and I are like, what are you going to say? Are you sure about that? How do you think it's going to go?
Yes. Joy actually did this same event the night before mine, and I was like, tell me everything.
I don't even remember what I said. I know that I'm getting better at it because I used to get so nauseous and freaked out side stage, and this time I was just talking to people and they were like, go, get out there. I was like, oh, okay.
So already, emotions are kind of high because of that. And then my husband wasn't able to come to the event with me, but he had some friends working it. And one of them was doing video. So they sent a little picture of me on stage, like presenting this stuff, being like, look at your wife. And my husband sent it to me being like, I have such a rock star wife, just a really sweet moment. And the first thought in my mind when I opened that picture was, I look massive. I look huge. That's what went through my brain. But then we had a friend and coworker that was sitting with us, and I looked at her and I go, I just want you to know, I almost just said something audibly negative about my body, but I didn't. And that is growth.
That's a huge victory. You're stopping the cycle.
Because sometimes I think there's this tendency to be like, ugh, I look so fat in this. And I think it's because we crave validation from others. I don't know. It's almost default for me. And I'm trying to break the cycle of that, right? I'm trying to not... Again, I don't know if it's fishing for validation or if it's just putting myself down because that's what I've always done. I don't know where that comes from. I probably should maybe explore that in therapy. But it was a growth moment for me to be like, okay, it wasn't the most flattering picture, but I did a good job on stage. Just trying to bring it back around.
I think there's so much victory in stopping it before it gets out your mouth, because that's the end of the cycle that's happening in our head. So when we try to reverse a pattern or a habit that we don't like, you have to work backwards.
Yes.
So you've stopped it from coming out of your mouth. Now the battle is only in your mind. And when the thought comes in, it sounds like you're trying to do what Jennifer Taylor Wagner talked about in season 1, do a thought swap.
Yeah.
And you're instead saying, actually, it doesn't really matter how I look because my execution was great. And then maybe someday you'll go, I think I look huge, but my hair looks so stinking amazing.
And honestly, the shirt I was wearing was not doing me any favors.
See?
It's our red YFM shirt with a giant dot on the front.
No.
These shirts, they always remind me of Thing 1 and Thing 2 from Dr. Seuss because they're just...
T-shirts in general are not great.
T-shirts in general, but this one in particular, it was on this tiny little screen, and a video of a screen always makes you look distorted and weird. I commanded the room. And so I can say those things like, the shirt didn't do me favors. I still, had everyone's attention for those few seconds I was on stage. My hair did look good, which was a modern miracle with all the humidity that day.
When I did mine did not. I had a baseball cap on and I didn't care.
So just to show that, we're honest about our mess. And sometimes that mess means that we are a work in progress, but boy, are we working on it.
Girl, you're growing. I'm
trying.
Very impressed with this. See, you can see some change in us season 2. I'm not any better though. So my mess of the week proves that. I a bit of a fight with my husband last night, and I won't go into the details. Okay, I will.
This is the Holy Mess podcast.
We're friends. We're hanging out. But his reaction is really why I'm talking about this. Last night, he came home from a late work event, and I literally told myself, Becca, do not complain about anything or make a big deal, because often he comes home and I know he's had these amazing moments. My husband works in ministry. He's just worshiped Jesus. He's just told people how great he is. He feels like a hero. And then he comes home, and I know that it's probably not easy to come home to me where I go, our son was so tough to put to bed and blah, 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 blah. And I didn't want to be that way. So I had a pretty good bedtime with my son, and I was really equipped to try to be positive, and it was going fine. It was late, which doesn't help. You're not in a good place. And then he said, remember, I have to leave really early again tomorrow. And then remember, small group starts back at our house tomorrow night. And it was multiple things. And then also I know that the following day he has a work event and we have a sitter and I have to hurry home, and it's a lot of things.
So you had made it through this night that could have been rough because you were solo parenting, and then you realized, oh no, there's more to come.
Right. And he had left at the crack of dawn that morning. So I went on a complaining spree. I don't know any other way to say it. And I basically said, I know your job is really stressful right now, but actually my job is really stressful too. And I feel like I'm holding the brunt of the weight at home. And I know that that's necessary. But when I'm looking at the coming days and week, I don't really know how I'm going to do it, and I'm really overwhelmed, and I need you to cut whatever can be cut, because if I know some of it's necessary.
Yeah.
But we have a fundraiser coming up on the air. Those are all hands on deck. He's also really busy.
Actually, when this episode publishes, we will be in our fundraiser.
That's right.
So
Snap, I broke the fourth wall or
no,
whatever.
It's fine. I think everyone knows that podcasts aren't live. That's impossible.
Right. That's exactly true. So in that moment, it did not end well. I could tell he was really defeated and really frustrated. And we didn't quite work it out, because at some point you just kind of have to go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, I went to bed. He did not. Instead, he went downstairs and cleaned our entire kitchen. He did dishes and unloaded the dishwasher, wiped things down until 11 p.m. And I got up this morning, and our son was up at the crack of dawn, and I said, you need to go get him something to drink, but there's nothing clean. And he goes, oh, yes, there is.
Oh.
And I was like, what? And I was still in a bad mood. And he was like, I did all the dishes last night. And you know, when you want to still be mad, but someone is loving you like Jesus and you don't know what to do. I still honestly don't know what to do. I've thanked him, but it was the most selfless act for me to be not very kind in my addressing of an issue in our marriage, and then for him to go and love me and serve me. I mean, it's literally how we're supposed to treat each other. But then when it happens, it's truly like the Bible says something about kindness reaping hot coals on someone's head. I'm burning up today. I feel it.
He heard you, so he did things around the house, knowing that he's going to be leaving early and coming home late, and all these things are going on. And I think there's something broken in me where sometimes I want to fight. It's just,
girl, it's called sin. We're all that way.
And so it is always those moments where just sometimes you're like, okay, this is a really serious thing and I need you to see me and hear me. And then they do. And you're like, but now I have nothing to be mad about.
What do I do?
And it's so messed up. I'm like, I want to fight. I want to fight.
I do think it's ironic that I just in the podcast talked about how like not all marriage fights have a resolution, and my brain just wants a resolution.
Yeah.
I just want him to be like, I'll never schedule anything ever again. But that's not realistic. And so this is always the thing we tend to fight about is time and managing our family. And we might be able to manage it in this season, but we'll have to remanage it.
And look, that he took control of the managing it by saying, okay, well, I, again, can't solve it by emptying my plate this week, but I can manage it by making your life a little easier.
Yes. And it was so nice to have all the dishes done.
It's always nice to have all the dishes done. There are times we had a company over a few weeks ago now, and you clean the house, and I'm like, it's never getting messy again. This is gorgeous. This is beautiful. Literally multiple times I was like, Joey, look at the countertop. Look how empty the countertop is.
It never stays
and he's like,
that.
yeah, I took most of the stuff off the countertop. I know what the countertop looks like. And then 3 days later, you're like, we might as well burn the house down.
Yes.
It's just not getting back to
I'm
clean.
amazed it took you even 3 days.
It didn't. I was just trying to make myself look good. And now on to our mental health moment, which I'm really excited about today. We are joined by Kaylee. She is a member of WayFM's digital team. She is kind of the czar of all things digital.
Oh, my.
I tell people that she's going to be everyone's boss someday because it's true. But one quality that Joy and I really admire about Kaylee is her ability to say no and even take charge of situations.
Kaylee exercised this when we asked her to be on the podcast, and she was like, absolutely not. And then she was like, just kidding.
It was all in good fun. It seems like a good moment to say no.
But it's kind of interesting how I think it's intriguing that as a woman, you are able to do that, because I think stereotypically women have a harder time saying no. But I think it started for you in your life with a background in martial arts, because you, from a young age, were taught this very strict kind of like set of rules.
Yeah,
I
know.
need you to know, as Becca was saying that, she did martial arts with her arms.
Yeah.
And it proves that Becca and I did not do martial arts.
Couple fun karate chops there. No, random fun fact. Yeah, Kaylee, who works here at WayFM, is also a third-degree black belt. So
third degree?
Yeah.
I didn't even know it went that far.
I was like, do you know what that means? Because I don't.
I think it's the highest.
Well, no, it's definitely not. But I came from an absolutely, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but kick butt family. Like, they are awesome. And yeah, I think it empowered me a lot as a young child. You know, I was 7 years old when I got my first degree black belt, because I was training in martial arts from like the moment I could walk. I really was. So 7 years old, I was a black belt, and it's a respect culture. So people, yes, ma'am, or, you know, they call me miss. And
you're
that's what I was normal to. Yes.
That's
yes.
very strange.
So I think because of that, like martial arts and a lot of sports, or like if you're a captain for a soccer team or things like that at a young age, they can really empower you, where you do learn like how to be a leader, and you get some level of respect, definitely in martial arts. And all of that definitely does apply to why you guys see in me the quality to be able to say no. It's because I feel strong in that. If it's something I need to say no to, I go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter if it's a man speaking to me or somebody asking too much of me, if it's a friend, if it's a boss, whatever it is, if it's the right answer, I don't shy away from saying it.
Can I ask how you, or maybe when you stopped worrying about how it affected the other person? I think that's when I struggle is I'm very empathetic, and I think about how it's going to make them feel. But at some point, you had to shift to go, their feelings don't change the answer.
Absolutely. And I mean, you guys are so sweet for pointing out this quality in me, because I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm fabulous and I always say no when I should. Like, everybody struggles with this, to overcommit, right? Because I'm a go-getter. Like, I always want to be accomplishing things and helping people. But to answer your question, Joy, like, I think a shift for me that really helped is realizing when you say yes to somebody in front of you, when you maybe should say no. Like somebody who's like, hey, we're doing this great thing this weekend. We're going to pass out meals to the homeless, and we really need one more volunteer. Can you do it?
I can't say no. I can't.
How can you say no to something good? But what you have to realize is your yes in that moment is saying no to something else for you or for your family that you probably need more. And it just depends. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes my weekend is totally free and I've had a restful week. I'm up for it and I can say yes to that. But if it's been a long, exhausting week at work and I've barely spent any time with my family, saying yes to the person in front of me means I'm saying no to the people I love most, which is my family, and taking care of me. And so if you can start thinking about when you say yes to someone, what are you giving up in that moment that maybe is actually more important to you? Like, Joy, you have a little boy, you know, and you work a full-time job.
I didn't mean it like that. Yes, I do. I said yes because I think I told my husband this last night that I love being with my girlfriends. He's always like, say yes when someone asks me to do something. And I said, but I automatically now know I'm sacrificing some of the very little time I do have with my son. I won't put him to bed that night. He won't see me till the next morning just to go to dinner with a girlfriend. And sometimes I do choose it, but it's hard when friends don't understand maybe my no because they're not sacrificing something so serious because they're just like, it's just dinner, like come. And I have such a hard time going, I haven't seen my son much all week. I'm a full-time working mom. And so, yes, I'm starting to learn that process, but I don't often do it in the moment. It sounds like you immediately weigh both options and then How do you confidently say no? Because Becca's a I'm sorry person.
I am. Well, it was so funny. Joy and I were literally having a conversation in the studio one day about everything I had on my plate at work. And then she goes,
she's overwhelmed.
And she goes, oh man, I still need to do this thing. And I go, oh, I can do that for you. And she goes, Becca, what is wrong with you?
I was like, absolutely not.
That's a good friend.
I mean, I try.
Or a friend with no boundaries.
But what was your question?
Oh, I want to know, like, I don't remember.
It's okay. We're all just a mess.
I remember thinking, Becca, that you say I'm sorry a lot. So I imagine that if you say no, you probably follow it with a lot of sorries. So I was asking Kaylee how to do it confidently.
Well, and what you said, Joy, you said it as if there were only two options, right? You were like, either you're going to say yes to the question somebody asked you, or you have to say no and do it with like all this gusto and power and authority. And maybe you just can't conjure that up in the moment, depending on how well you're doing and how well your mental health is doing that day. There is an option that says, I can't this time, but let's schedule that for the future. Let's find a time when I do have the capacity. And maybe that answer comes more naturally for other people, like than a no.
Not right now.
It's the not right now. It's the let's do that during a time that I can give you my all. Because if your girlfriends want to go out to dinner with you and catch up about life, then they want to do that, and they want to have a fun time. They want to have a girls' night. They want to enjoy conversation and make jokes and to talk about old times or what's going on in life, and want it to be a positive, fun experience. But if you're not able to give them that, then you saying, how about next weekend I have less on my plate and I can prepare for this and I'll be able to go into it from such a healthier place.
That is a great idea.
Question, because I think sometimes in the moment we're like, oh no, I don't have time for that. But you come across those people who are just really pushy, and they just, I think especially maybe at work, you're more likely to encounter this of, oh please, like there's too much on my plate. Can you just do it this one time? Can you just do this one thing? Can you just work an extra half hour? What do you do when you've given a no and someone is still pushing? Because that's when I usually cave.
I mean, that's really hard. I'll tell you another thing that I know myself, I know what else I'm good at. I'm good at delegating. So like if somebody's coming to you, it's because they have a real need. Like I'm not just assuming that the people who are asking you over and over are doing that because they're jerks. Like they need something to happen and they think you to be the best fit for that. But again, if you don't have the capacity, you're not the best fit for it because you're not going to be able to give it 100%. And so maybe it's not I can get to that later, but it's like, you know what? Why don't you ask this other person or, a list of 3 others? I think they would actually be really capable of taking care of this. Maybe I can even talk to them for 5 minutes and let them know how I normally do it, but I really think that they would be able to take care of that for you. To be able to give someone another option. It's the same thing as in your personal life, giving a how about next weekend. It's maybe this person would actually be better suited for this project right now.
Wow.
One other thing I would say is that I'm one to look at my schedule and see, oh, I have an empty slot from 2 to 3 today, and think that means I'm free. But actually, if I have an empty time slot from 2 to 3, it is my only free time that day, and I better protect it. And
or
I think
you need to eat then.
Yes, we need to be more protective of our time like that, especially in work culture, because people will see an empty schedule and you're like, that doesn't mean I have the capacity.
Okay, so I have a secret to tell you guys. This is just staying on the podcast where we use microphones and a bunch of people download it every week.
No one listens to this. No worries.
It's fine. But we just had a merger, which means that we're with a new company and they can kind of see our schedules, which is helpful because when you're trying to make meetings across the country, it's nice to see what other people have going on. I block out things in my calendar that aren't actually meetings. It's just I can't do anything right now.
Is that when you're sitting on your couch in your office staring out the window?
Where she's laying on her couch with her feet in the air and her laptop on her stomach. I've seen it.
She came in the other day and that's how I was. My shoes are always off. And I'm just laying on the couch, just trying to avoid a mental break.
Yeah. You know what? Snaps for Becca that she blocks off time in her calendar just to do her normal job.
That's great.
I think just to tag on to this conversation, that is another way to say no is prepare for the ask, right?
Yeah.
Because now I know that if someone really, really needs me during this block of time and they come to me, then I can give them my all. But if they're just like, oh, let's find a time, they look and they see I'm not available, and it's worked really well. couple weeks I've been doing it.
They don't know it's nap time. That's fine.
I know both of you and what we do every day. I have the pleasure of working with you, and I know that right now probably all three of us are working from a place of exhaustion a lot of days. And I think that's the time where we recognize the most, where we go, wow, why did I say yes to all of these things? Like, why am I not better at saying no? It's why this question even came up this week, maybe for the podcast. And I think what we need to do, we know that seasons of exhaustion are inevitable, but we can help minimize them and work rest into like our daily rhythms better than we do. I'm in a season where I'm trying to really focus on rest, but I realized even last night, I was like, I've blocked off like these couple weeks to be a season of rest. But when you set goals, you talk about what's my year-long goal, what's my month-long goal, my weekly goal, my daily goal. And I was like, I need to do the same thing with my rest. Like, I can't just go, oh, well, I have, however many vacation days in a year, and that's my rest.
I'll squeeze it in.
Right. What about the rest for the month? Like, do I need a monthly night away that's just me? What do I need weekly? Do I need a day where I have no screens in my life to really rest and recenter? And what does that look like daily? And it probably is our time with the Lord, or just sitting in the sunshine and getting some, positive energy and creating those seasons of rest in your life to prepare yourself for the inevitable seasons of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And if we do that, I think we find ourselves fewer times being like, why did I say yes to all of these things? I'm not good at saying no. That'll happen fewer and far between if we create better rest into our life, whatever that looks like for you.
Girl, it's so needed.
It's so good.
There are seasons where you can't say no to certain things. It's pretty inevitable.
Yeah.
There'll be seasons of busy, and it's not like the three of us on the podcast right now have said yes to a bunch of things we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
There's necessary things and busy seasons in our lives, and we're in one. You
But
might be too.
Rest is necessary too.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I think after that conversation, no one should question why we asked you to come speak on it. Of course,
Girl,
they
thank
see
you.
these qualities in you. And we're just really grateful that you could speak into this, because I definitely know that there are a lot of people listening who have trouble setting boundaries, have trouble saying no, that you've given more tools to.
Absolutely. Thanks, ladies.
And on to our mess and bless of the week. Do you feel, Joy, that you try to eat healthy in the mornings?
No.
Oh, here's my thing. I feel like I always start the day with good intentions. Like, okay, this is going to be a day where I'm going to treat my body well.
What
and
do
then,
you eat?
Well, I'm going to get into that in a second.
Okay.
But, I'll try to have some oatmeal, maybe some fruit, just something really balanced. And then by the end of the day, it's just all chips and nonsense. But there are some nutritionists who looked at the nutritional value of breakfast foods, which I know this sounds so boring, but bear with me for a second. And they ranked every food on a scale of 1 to 100. 1 is terrible for you, should not even be in your pantry. 100 is the best possible thing that you could give your body right now.
I need to know the hundreds.
I don't have that, but I'm curious, where do you think a multi-grain bagel with raisins ranked?
Raisins? I'm just mad at that bagel to start. I love a multigrain, I love a everything bagel. Probably like 50.
19. Do you know what outranked it?
What outranked it? A muffin.
Ice cream with nuts and chocolate scored a 37.
Is healthier?
Is healthier than a multigrain bagel. And I just...
What's wrong with bagels? I need help.
This is the mess. This is my mess, because I'm like, well, why am I even trying? I've been getting it wrong in so many ways. Cereal's bad for you. Bagels are bad for you. Ice cream is better somehow. I give up. We're just done trying to be healthy.
And multigrain is supposed to be healthy. I know the raisins are a weird left field, but you could be eating like a blueberry bagel, and I'm sure that that's worse because it's sugary fruit.
Or a muffin, because it's even more sugary.
That's probably a number one.
But ice cream, they're like, yeah, you know what? That's better than a bagel.
Might as well have that for breakfast.
Seriously.
Although I'd be asleep by lunch. My mess is about clothing. So a story came out this week with the reasons why some of the most successful people in the world wear the same outfit every day.
That's so true. I always think of Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg. They just
known for what? The turtleneck.
Yeah, a uniform.
And I am calling this my mess because this will never be me. I love different outfits. I love accessories. I love different colors. Here's the reason they said it really does help is if you have fewer decisions, you're starting your day out with less decision fatigue than someone who's deciding like me, what headband, what shoes, what necklace. And then there's less time wasted. You're fast in the morning. You have less stress, more energy. You can use your brain power to put other important things together. And they say it's iconic. Listen, I'm wearing white cowgirl boots. I want this to be iconic.
Okay, I see why it's your mess, but I kind of wish that my life were closer to this.
Why?
And because I think the decision fatigue some mornings I wake up and I just look at my closet and I'm like, so and I don't know if you've noticed, I wear black V-necks a lot.
You do wear a lot of black.
I'm wearing one right now.
Are you Steve Jobsing it?
Not consciously, but I will. There will be weeks where I'm like, okay, I wore a black shirt yesterday, so I can't wear one today, but I'll do it 3 times in a week, like black on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because you just wake up sometimes and you're like, I can't go through this. Or today we have a video shoot. I wore my nice.
I'm sorry. Who does?
I do. You don't. It's fine.
Okay. I got freaked out, but at the same time, I came fabulous. I'm fine.
You always do. So I have my nice black V-neck on, but then even picking out earrings and a necklace was exhausting to me. I had to send a picture to friends to be like, does this clash with this? Because I want to wear both of these, but I just don't know if it goes together, and I don't want to think about it. So you make the decision for me. They said it was fine.
Girl, maybe this is, and this might be your bless. I apologize, but I want it to be fun, and I want everyone to wear new outfits every day. But I guess it's not happening.
My bless is going to sound bad because it's based on someone else's pain, but bear with me for a second. So there's been a trend going around online where people are having men try out a cramp simulator.
Oh, I saw something about this, but I didn't watch the video.
Yes, the videos are amazing. It's all over TikTok right now. It's basically, I think it's called a TENS unit that is just, I think it's made to help your muscles somehow. I don't know. But
so it's a weaker version of the one that is like labor.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And even it's on a scale of 1 to 10, and they said that 10 is getting into labor territory a little bit. Yikes. And these women who are running this booth or who are doing this next to their men are like, yeah, that's what it feels like for me.
The woman does it at the same time. I love that.
And there are times where the woman gets to a 10 and they're like, yeah, I've had days like this. And the man's like, I can't do it. This is just a little clip of one dad with 4 daughters who decided to try it out.
That's really uncomfortable.
So that's a 9.
I don't think I'd go to work at a 9.
Call it in sick.
Let's try for a 10.
Okay, we're at a 10.
Oh my word. I want to bend to make it all stop.
And this is my bless because I think it's nice when we can empathize with each other better. And there are days where it's an 8, 9, 10, and you still have to go to work. You still have to put on a smile and not act like you're in active pain. Joy, you've seen me in the studio where I've been like hunched over. And so I like that this is kind of catching on, again, just to see how other people have to deal with things. And it also just makes me feel like women are incredible.
Yeah, we're tougher than I think we realize because most people do have some kind of discomfort with their monthlies. And I feel like the fact that it comes around like every 3 weeks really means you can't take sick days. It's just not possible. It's like very few weeks we actually are just delightful.
And then I'm always delightful.
That's
Thank
right.
you very
That's
much.
right.
And then you've done labor, which is also something that most people can't understand.
I've blocked it out. I don't really remember much of that. Thank God for medication to help me. My bless this week is about going back to school. There's a little kid's photo that's going viral for all the sweet reasons. He had a really tough start. Apparently, he had gotten into some trouble, had some backlash. He's only 8. And his mom was trying to figure out how to handle it. And so she said every day after school, he would get in the car and she would say, what happened today? What did you say? Did anyone say mean things to you? Did anybody play with you? How are you feeling? Are you okay? This mom is totally going to be me. And apparently one day after school, her son said, I just need you to stop. And she realized that she was bombarding him, and he probably feels that way at school too. I mean, I know my son's only 2, but kids struggle when their environment changes.
Yeah.
So he was going through some of that strange adjustment. and she decided to try something new. So as much as we love a spa day, she gave him one at home. She ran a nice bath. She put him in there with his swim trunks. His favorite snacks were laid out. He had a little Kool-Aid in a very fancy glass, some nice music and candles. And she said, I'm just going to leave you in here for 20 minutes. And apparently, she said afterwards, he was a new kid. And the next day when she took him to school, she said, you got this. And he said, yeah, but if I don't, can I have another bath tonight?
That's so sweet.
I think even kids need a pampering moment to feel like they can decompress and it's okay if they're not okay. And I think the earlier you can normalize finding coping mechanisms for that and conversation tools for it, I think the better. I wouldn't think there's anything wrong with asking your kids those questions. They're all good intentioned, but sometimes that overwhelms them.
And just to switch places for a second, because I know when I have had a really stressful day, I'm fine after a couple questions with my husband, and I want to tell him everything, but sometimes you're just not ready. And at 8 years old, you can't always verbalize that. Like, I have a lot to cover. I have a lot that went on, but I am just exhausted from the day. So props to this mom for being like, all right, mental health moments, they start young for a reason, because kids, especially I think after the pandemic, they are carrying a lot on their shoulders.
There's a lot of new when it comes to school. And one of my girlfriends said, I've never walked my kid into his classroom before because he started just a few years ago and you've never been allowed to walk your kid to a classroom. So they're experiencing new as well.
You know, that kind of reminds me, I actually read something today where the state of Kentucky will now allow kids to take mental health days.
So that's amazing.
And they're like, we're trusting parents that it's not just like I don't want to go to school today. But if it is that overwhelming, I need a bath or I'm going to break kind of day, it's okay. Like, that is an excused absence.
But be honest. Do you trust children to use this wisely? Because Becca has told me that she faked sick once for an entire week.
I did it on more than one occasion, but yes. The most notorious one was an entire week in 6th grade. Both my parents worked full time, so I got to be home alone during the day, which was the best.
Oh, no.
I convinced my mom that the only thing that didn't make me sick was summer sausage.
Which is disgusting.
That's like the worst thing you can eat if you're actually sick.
It's like spicy meat, right?
And this is TMI, but whatever. It's the podcast. At the end of the week, she called my bluff by making me do a suppository. So I don't think I faked sick after that, because I'm like, all right, this is serious stuff right now.
I don't think these mental health days are really going to help. Thank you so much for listening. If you got something out of this episode, we would love if you would share it with a friend. To be notified every time there's a new episode, simply text the word MESS, MESS, to 91979. And if you have anything you want to share with us, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at holymess@wayfm.com. Thanks for being a part of our messy family.